5 years ago, I was a lesbian. We've been together 3.5 years, and we'll have 4 children under the age of 2. Are you going to have some dinner?
Jackie Clune is a comedian and writer. She makes regular appearances on TV and radio like a lot of other celebrity mums.
Love that. I opened on Libido.
And also on Piles, I saw that.
Jackie lives in London with her partner Richard and their 18-month-old daughter Saoirse. When she fell pregnant for the second time, she was glad that her daughter wouldn't be an only child. And how? She's 30 weeks pregnant with triplets and is starting to think maybe the joke's on her. Have you heard the one about the ex-lesbian who's had 4 babies in 2 years? Well, you will, as we follow her journey through the pregnancy, the birth and beyond, and find out who has the last laugh. It's certainly not a story she ever predicted.
I met Richard. I was working at the Arts Theatre on a show called Bitchin', which had been a big success up in Edinburgh. And it was basically the story of my move from having been heterosexual, then being a lesbian for 12 years, and then deciding, I've had enough with that, I think I'll go back to men. And Richard had just got a job working as the fire officer at the theatre. And the first night of the show, I went up to the stage door to collect my dog, who was heavily pregnant with puppies at the time. And Richard came up to me and said, I just wanted to say I think you've got a great voice. And I thought, God, he's gorgeous. This lovely smile.
And then when we started seeing each other, what happened was I used to see her a lot more than possibly I would have done because of the fact that I lived in a garret and she had a warm bed and a hot shower.
Pretty quickly, we kind of fell into sort of living with each other, and after a year, I found out I was pregnant with our first child, Saoirse, who's now 18 months. Hello, who's that?
Lulu.
Hello, Lulu.
Hello.
I'd only just stopped breastfeeding, and I just stupidly thought I couldn't get pregnant. I don't know why. And within about 3 weeks, found out that I was pregnant, did a test, and just thought, oh no, and, you know, was quite upset. But then within a day, actually, it's really good, because I'll be 40 this year, and I wanted to have another one anyway, so let's just get it out of the way.
Having had one child, she was fairly laid back about being pregnant again.
So we just moseyed up to the hospital for our first scan. It was 22nd of December. I'd done all my Christmas shopping and, you know, it was quite a nice, relaxed atmosphere. And the sonographer switched on the machine and put the probe on me and said, is there a history of twins in your family?
And from like a nice kind of, say we were on a 0 when we entered the room, heard about the twins, went down to about -10, and then she said, it's not twins.
And we said, God, thank God for that.
Well, from going down to up to +20, we were just ecstatic. The room, the atmosphere was lifted, it was palpable, you could feel it, it was, you know. And it lasted, about 10 seconds before she said there's 3 of them.
And I looked at the screen and I could see 3 blobs. And I was absolutely horrified and shocked and appalled and stunned, and I thought, and angry. I thought, she must have made a mistake. This is a video of someone else's pregnancy or something.
Everything you can possibly think of as to why it's impossible to have triplets, you think of in that 10 seconds. In fact, the first second almost.
They wouldn't let me sit up or stand up for ages because I was literally in shock, just shaking, and I mean, in shock doesn't even cover it. It was like the whole world suddenly started spinning.
It's like when you see you're about to die and your life flashes before you. Well, I heard that news and my future flashed before me, and the future that I had projected, it wasn't that future that I saw. It was a completely different future.
Richard has some experience of multiple births from his twin girls, Alex and Maddie.
I've got twin daughters from when I was married, and no, it's not my fault. I'd like to think to myself, yes, I've got super sperm. My sperm could do anything. But no, it's not necessarily the case.
She said what's happened is you've got 2 eggs because you've got an identical pair and a single one, so you must have ovulated twice and one of the eggs has split. So it's kind of something like a 1 in 9,000 chance. of that happening spontaneously. Generally, triplets are the result of fertility treatment, around 85%.
In the UK, only 140 couples have triplets every year, and like the rest of them, Jackie and Richard are having a few sleepless nights.
I think the major worry really is what is it going to do to us as a couple and as a family.
It includes relationship with Saoirse, relationship with Jackie, relationship with how it's mad, money, space, time, career.
Yeah, but apart from that...
Apart from that, oh, it's fine. I don't worry about anything.
No.
I never really banked on this being my life. This is like somebody else's life happening to me. And sometimes I wonder how well I'll cope with that.
We'll be finding out later in the programme as Jackie copes with the practicalities of carrying triplets.
That's what I look like when I'm not pregnant.
But her friends are on hand with words of encouragement.
You look very, very well, but you look like a one-woman freak show.
And when she goes for a 4D scan, at last she can put some faces to the massive elbows and knees she's been feeling.
Juxtaposition of face against bottom there.
Kiss my hair.
Yeah.
Well, that's my shirt.
Writer and comedian Jackie Clune lives in London with her partner Richard and their 18-month-old daughter Saoirse. Jackie is 30 weeks pregnant with triplets and will be following her progress throughout the pregnancy and birth as she comes to terms with having 4 children under the age of 2. As the family breadwinner, she's determined to go on performing for as long as possible despite her massive bump. Fortunately, the show she's rehearsing is on the radio.
OK, next is time for the entertainment news. So who says that?
Me.
That's all Jackie.
Yeah.
The boys came here to do a job, which was to replace a brutal regime.
I'm recording on Wednesday for Radio 2 for Parsons and Naylor Pull-Out Section, which is a comedy sketch show, topical.
We just get Jackie to go. The children seem to have picked up a bug.
I don't think it'll be stand-up comedy, though. I think it'll be they have to give me a chair and a winch. Do you think our prawn-flavoured blancmange is making the children ill?
Nonsense. To say otherwise...
Work's been a real lifesaver in many ways. It's very hard to keep going. If I had a regular job, there's no way I'd still be doing it. I know lots of women get signed off sick before maternity leave kicks in because it is virtually impossible. But because of what I do, because it's quite erratic and I can work a lot from home, I do a lot of writing, it's really good because it keeps me ticking over. And I think if I was just sat doing nothing, I'd be going mad by now. And it's lovely being able to use what's happening to me in my work.
3. In fact, it supplies some great material when she's writing her monologue for the radio show.
And before you ask, no, it wasn't IVF. No, it doesn't run in the family. And yes, thanks, I do know I'll have my hands full. Sorry to sound a bit defensive, but it's been a bit of a shock, as you can imagine. We went for a scan just before Christmas and I was so shocked I convinced myself the doctor said we were having giblets. Completely true. Triplets is so chav, isn't it? Like buying in bulk. I have a box of kids, please, and 20 Raffles Super Kings. I mean, I think pregnant women generally become public property, and everyone thinks they should have an opinion on what you should be doing, how you should be resting, what you should be eating, if you should be drinking alcohol, if you should be doing this, doing that. Well, with triplets, it's so much worse because you get all of that, and you get the negative stuff about, oh, rather you than me. Oh, I read about one woman who was told I'd kill myself if I was pregnant with triplets. Your life's over. I pity you, you're doomed, one woman said to me.
It seems that amongst the public everyone's a critic, but Jackie's getting rave reviews from the medical profession. She's going to be having the triplets at Homerton Hospital, and her consultant couldn't be happier with how the pregnancy is going. In fact, she thinks Jackie could well carry the babies to 35 weeks, even though the national average is 33. However, Jackie's only at 30 weeks now, and already the corridor seems to be getting longer.
You've done ever so well. I mean, amazing. You're carrying, so you're already carrying 34, 50, you're carrying over 5 kilos of baby. Mm-hmm. And most people would be on their knees by this time, so I think you've done brilliantly. And the good thing is that there's a normal amount of fluid around the baby, so we haven't got any worries about twin transfusion or anything, which we won't get now.
No,
So
that's good.
That's fantastic. Now, at 30 weeks, say we had to deliver you today, at 30 weeks and 5 days, obviously the babies would go to special care. But because we've given you steroids already, hopefully they wouldn't have too much in the way of breathing problems. They'd all need help with feeding, and they'd be stuck on a special care for a while.
Yeah.
But I think you can relax, really. You're going to have 3 babies.
Yeah.
And as you know, I want to try and get you to 35 weeks.
35?
If it's humanly possible.
Yes.
Well, another 4 weeks.
Yeah.
If we could get you...
for 34.
Yes. If we could get you to, say, 4 weeks today, I'd be delighted.
Thinking 4 kids will be quite enough, she's wondering whether to get her tubes tied during the caesarean.
But it's actually only your second pregnancy. That's one thing, and I think it's quite difficult making that decision, particularly when you're so uncomfortable with triplets. But the other thing is the failure rate is much higher.
Yes, that's what I was told. And the tubes are bigger.
The tubes are bigger. We just know that you're more likely to get pregnant again if we try and sterilise you at the
Do you know
caesarean.
any odds on that? Any statistics?
Sort of, we quote 1 in 200, but it's very difficult because everybody's got different techniques of sterilising at caesarean. But the other thing is that if you really, really don't want to get pregnant after when you've had the babies, a Mirena coil is the best contraceptive ever. I mean, nobody gets pregnant with a Mirena coil unless it drops out, or unless they're pregnant when it is put in. There are almost no recorded cases of pregnancy with a Mirena coil, and that controls your periods. And it means that if you did, for any weird, fluky reason, decide that you were going to have another baby, you could pull it out. Don't laugh, it happens.
No way.
You could pull it out and you'd still be able to get pregnant again.
Yeah.
It's only your second caesarean. There'll be great big fat tubes, and we'll be busy doing other things.
Yeah. Okay.
Jackie already knows the sexes of her triplets. She's having twin boys and a girl. But when she goes for a 4D scan, she will actually get to see them in perfect detail. At last, she can put some faces to the massive elbows and knees she's been feeling.
My other problem is, because of the weight, obviously, it's almost impossible for me to lie completely on my back.
Right, okay.
So if I can go slightly on my side, that helps a lot.
Go slightly on your side and we'll see what we can find.
Okay.
You know?
Can't lie on my back at all. There's something about the extra weight. I mean, I know a lot of pregnant women can't anyway, but I get so breathless and panicky. It's like the central artery is completely compressed and I can't breathe at all, which makes going for scans really difficult.
Do you remember where they are?
Roughly, yeah.
They were all head down last week.
Were they? Right. You okay?
Yeah, it's just hard to breathe. Could I sit up a bit, maybe?
Yeah, okay. We'll turn up.
Could you get me up, Rich? It's amazing how many doctors and obstetricians, you know, I say to them, I can't lie on my back, and they say, oh, well, just for a few minutes. Oh, right, well, that's okay, then I'll just die in those few minutes. Oh, that's better. Yeah, it's a lot better. 4D scan was incredible. I found it really moving, and because you're looking at these things that really look like babies for the first time.
This is the presenting twin.
Good God.
Pretty good-looking baby.
It's incredible.
There's somebody's foot, is it?
I know, it's somebody else's foot there. We get that.
They're having a fight.
Yeah.
I've always thought that the ordinary 2D ultrasound images look like the moon landing. You know, it could be anything going on. It just looks like those 60s black and white images of men landing on the moon. And it's hard to tell quite often what they are, and they look quite odd, you know, sort of skeletal sort of images. The 4D scan, there's no denying they look like babies. Do they all look pretty much the same at this age?
Well, no. You know, after 24 weeks, not all babies look the same. You know, they're hugely different. And you can see ethnicity and everything. You know, it's just fantastic. You would like me to...
Oh, wow. That's a lovely picture, isn't it? Look at his lovely mouth. It's beautiful. There was one image that really moved me, and that was just a full frontal facial shot of this really angelic-looking child with these beautiful curly lips, and it looked so peaceful.
Now, where have you gone? There's a heel. There's a leg. Oh. So one leg and that's cord over the face.
Wow,
then.
look at that foot.
And that's a big cord, umbilical cord,
Yeah.
floating around there.
Or a very large penis.
Well, yeah, it could be Superman, but I doubt it. So there you are. You've got a juxtaposition of face against bottom there.
Kiss my ass.
Yeah.
Wow.
A lot of limbs there.
Or a bargain bucket of KFC.
Yeah.
Legs and wings and... It was a bit like a kind of a medieval torture chamber image or something. There was just an entanglement of 12 limbs and, you know, bums in faces, and you just didn't really know at certain points what it was you were looking at.
That's the cow.
That's a lovely image. They're very bonny, aren't they?
Yeah.
Do they
Already,
all look
yes.
nice, or do you sometimes scan them and go, oh, that
my
one's a bit of a minger? But not that you'd ever say it.
No, I don't think I'd ever say it.
There's no denying they look like babies. But at the same time, I still couldn't quite relate to the fact that they were mine. It's like they're just images on the screen. I can't, until I actually can see them and hold them, I won't believe it, I don't think.
But that's less than a month away and Jackie needs to be prepared. However, thanks to her size, shopping for the triplets isn't easy. It's less a case of retail therapy and more a matter of wholesale haulage. But it seems she's found a way round it. Take a friend and put pedal to the metal.
Keep up. Come on, let's shop. Shopping generally has been a nightmare, and I'm a big fan of shopping. I can spend days and days in shopping malls. In fact, I spent 3 days in a shopping mall in Texas once. And it's been very hard this time because I'm just not mobile enough, and the spirit is willing but the flesh is weak, and there's so much to get and so much that we need, and yet I've just not had the energy to do it because I cannot walk that far. But what's been a huge find is the shop mobility scheme where you can hire a scooter. And despite my friends and family's initial embarrassment, it's been a complete boon because it means that I can just get around and not flag after 20 minutes and say I've got to go home. Oh, I need to get some little shoes. That's quite so that's sweet, isn't it?
While Jackie cruises the mall, Saoirse's at home enjoying some quality time with her dad. She's making the most of the one-to-one attention before the triplets burst on the scene.
What does the monkey do?
Rich and I are both quite laid back, which I think is really good in some ways, but in other ways, nothing ever gets done. Hey, that's like a doll's dress.
It's going to be even smaller than that,
Oh my
though.
God, it's so small. Not got any bedding sorted out. We've not got a buggy. We've got no bottles, no nappies, we've got nothing. We're rubbish.
It's very dark. It's almost like black, and you probably shouldn't put babies in black. It
Oh, I
suits
quite
in.
like it. I used to like Saoirse in
Really?
black when she was little. She had 2 black polar necks when she was feeling a bit existential. When she was about 6 weeks old. Part of me feels so overwhelmed by all the stuff. I hate stuff. And we're going to have so much of it.
3 babies means 3 times the cost, and sometimes more. A single buggy costs around £60, but a triple can cost up to £600.
There's not much for the one behind to look at, is there?
Apart from the back of his brother's head.
You'd have to switch them over.
Just paint faces on their heads.
On the back of their heads.
I need a bridal gown. Shall I go in and say, yeah, I'm getting married next week. What can you sort me out with? That's what I look like when I'm not pregnant.
One of Jackie's showbiz pals has organised a baby shower at a swanky hotel and invited some of their celebrity friends. She wants to look her best for it, but her size is proving a big problem.
I'm having a baby shower on Thursday, and nothing that I've got fits me anymore.
Okay, so we're going to have a look.
Yeah,
see if
so
we
it's
can
a sort of
feel great on
daytime,
that.
spring sort of afternoon tea thing.
Okay.
Still still think it's shocking.
I don't know. What's wrong with that?
It's just the bump is so huge. I don't know what to put over it, under it.
Can we wear heels? Oh, I like that.
What is the point in turning profile? It's not going to look good.
Comedy value.
Oh yes, does my bump look bigger than me?
Enjoy Thursday.
Jackie's finally got around to ordering some baby things, and the next day there's a big delivery. The differences between having one baby and 3 are rapidly stacking up.
Fancy nappies, but they probably won't last more than a day and a half.
Yeah, that was good.
We'll do our best.
They haven't got a large house, and this is a lot of extra equipment. It's starting to dawn on them that space is going to be a real issue.
Where are we going to put everything?
Don't know.
With all this extra equipment, it's starting to look like they might have to move out of their house and into the cardboard boxes. And there'll be even more stuff after she's had her baby shower. Jackie gets to meet up with some old friends, and they're all bearing gifts.
You look fantastic. You look like one of those big Peruvian statues. Sweet. How are you doing this? How are you doing it? You look fantastic.
This is Bryony Lavery, world famous, fantastic playwright. I've been in one of her plays. Donna Eyre.
Nice to see you. We went and bought them together because they quite wanted to choose some things for the babies. Holly's quite excited for you.
Eileen, why are you covering it up? Why are you ashamed? You're not. I thought you had a pillow there. I thought you were sitting here with one of those in front of you like that.
No, but it's like the road out of Britain, isn't it?
That's so annoying. I covered it.
It's extraordinary.
I knew you'd want me to get it out.
Bought you a puppy. I thought,
Yeah, she needs it.
might not have enough to look after.
Talk me through clothes. How has it been finding clothes for you?
For me, John Lewis do nice duvet covers. Just cut a hole out here. Marvellous.
You look very, very well, but you look like a one-woman freak show. Babies.
Oh, bless you.
For the babies. You look...
Big fat clue.
You look extraordinarily well.
I laughed the most when she phoned me up and she found out. She said, "Look, don't worry. People will help you. Not me, obviously."
Yes, you've got a huge bump, but a lot of you have maintained it quite well. It's not like you've
I don't think
ballooned
you should
everywhere
sit
else.
next to Air.
I know, it's not fair.
I really don't. Where's Jo Brand when you need her?
She couldn't come. Bitch.
She's selfish.
I know. I opened on libido.
And also on piles, I saw that. That's quite good.
I love books like that. They're great.
So lots of prezzies, lots of laughs, and a bit of showbiz glamour. But it's not all champagne and parties for Jackie. After the break, it's back to reality as she gets nearer to D-Day and further from the sink.
I can't reach things. Just trying to reach over the sink. I'm having to do the washing up sideways.
And she finally gets to see her triplets and her feet.
I can see my knees and my toes again. That's really weird.
Jackie Clune is a comedian and writer who is 33 weeks pregnant with triplets. We'll be following her as she gets nearer to her delivery date when it's increasingly hard to see the funny side of her situation.
I always think if men were carrying babies, I bet there'd be a lot more drugs available. And suddenly become really anxious about leaving them in there too long because that can be really dangerous, especially with an identical pair. The placenta might be compromised even more.
And how will she cope with the realities of life with 3 babies and a toddler? Jackie's still working but finding it hard to get around. Her accompanist Al comes over to her to rehearse a song she's written for a radio show.
You got it all right.
Yeah, mine's quicker than your other place.
Yeah, straight up the A12, no problem.
I could never find you.
Right at the end.
Al will be playing the upright piano, she'll be attempting the side saddle guitar.
You go first and I'll jump in. You know what I mean? I'll play it.
The song's dedicated to her daughter Saoirse, and it's all about what a bad mother she's been.
I'm sorry, so sorry. I've been a bad mom. I once put Vic's finger up all over your bum. I'm sorry, so sorry. But what can I do when God gave out mommies? You're at the back of the queue.
This is a special here. I think I'll stop playing during this bit. I can't speak and play at the same time. For dragging you round on tour with puppetry of the penis and making you spend your infant evenings in a drafty dressing room wedged into a car seat with two naked Australian men in capes as babysitters, I apologize. For getting a cheap laugh out of slicking your black hair over to one side and painting a Hitler mustache on you in eyeliner, I apologize. So true. For putting you in a cooking pot at the age of 4 months and then taking a Polaroid just for my own amusement, I apologize. For taking you to Swansea, I apologize. This week I've been really busy. I just took on a load of work. I'm covering a show for Vanessa Feltz tomorrow at BBC London. Doing a live radio show for 2 hours, which I'm presenting. And she's really brilliant. It's a great station. I really like the programme and it's really good fun. And possibly doing a TV interview for one of those shows, Top 50 TV, whatever. You know, talking head for one of those. Yesterday I do a programme for Virgin Trains, a radio programme that's pre-recorded that they use on their train services. It's a very camp kind of disco tunes radio show, so I had to record that. And bits and pieces of writing. I'm writing a piece for a magazine, Red Magazine. Had to get that done before the babies come. And a photo shoot for that. So I've been really busy.
I'm sorry, so sorry. But what can I do when God gave out moms? You were at the back of the queue.
That's really good.
I can't really do very much at all. I get really out of breath. And I can't reach things, just trying to reach over the sink. I'm having to do the washing up sideways. It's a great excuse. It's actually not as pleasant as it sounds because it just makes you feel really helpless and just trying to do simple thing. Like, I hate sitting amongst a lot of dirty dishes and stuff on the floor, but just trying to tidy up when Saoirse goes to bed. I like to put all the toys away so that the afternoon is a new onslaught, and then the evening I can spend not surrounded by books and toys and things, but just trying to bend down and pick them up and put them away just knackers me out, and I end up just giving up and letting it just lie there, which is awful because it just makes me feel even worse. If I can't move and I live in a squat. Should I still be taking the folic acid?
Yes, please.
I think I need some.
It's Jackie's 33-week checkup. Although she's exhausted, she's not sleeping at night and thinks she needs help.
And I also wanted to ask you about sleeping tablets. I know it's contentious, but I've just been reading about in the later stages of pregnancy when women, like triplet pregnancy, women are not sleeping. And I know often it's because of discomfort. But I'm suffering from really bad insomnia, and it's starting to really impair my ability to cope day to day. And I mean, I never take anything like that, but I'm just thinking, you know, on the odd occasion, it might really help me.
If it was going to go on for weeks and weeks and weeks, I think it would be a fair request. But it's not going to go on for that long. And if I give you some benzodiazepines, although in the short term it wouldn't harm the babies, I'm sure, it actually doesn't give you a terribly good night's sleep. So you don't even feel that much better. So I stick with it. It's not long. It's really not long.
3 weeks is a long time to not sleep, I think.
You get another 9 months of it after that.
Yeah. Well, I'll be seeing you in 12 days, remember, which is only 12 days away.
12 more days might not seem long to some, but for Jackie it feels like each day there's a mountain to climb.
Ooh. Can't breathe, I feel like I'm mountaineering. The longer the pregnancy goes on, the more difficult it is to keep positive if you're really, really tired. And I really wanted to try and get some sleeping pills or something just to help me cope, but it's so frustrating. I don't know whether it's because they don't like testing drugs on... It's very hard to test drugs on pregnant women, obviously the risks that you might do some damage. But I always think if men were carrying babies, I bet there'd be a lot more drugs available, that you can't get anything if you're pregnant. I remember phoning up NHS Direct once in agony with sinusitis, and she virtually said, I said, well, what can I take in pregnancy? And she said, well, if your leg's falling off, possibly a paracetamol. And that seems to be the received wisdom. You can't take anything for fear that it might do some damage. So you start to feel like it's really not important. You're not important, it's the babies. And of course they're defenceless and you have to do all you can, but sometimes when you're in agony, I can get quite resentful. I'm really fed up now. Just not being able to breathe, it's just the small things. The basic things that really get to you. And it's hard not knowing for sure what's going to happen. I've got the appointment on Monday and suddenly become really anxious about leaving them in there too long, because that can be really dangerous, especially with an identical pair. The placenta might be compromised even more. And the last thing I want is to have got this far and something awful happen at the last minute, and it is quite a real possibility, although it's not very likely. Touch wood. Part of me just wants a life back that's not just about babies and multiples and triplets and buggies. Getting a lot of Braxton Hicks as well, really hard stomach, quite painful. And my waist is now 54 inches. I think that's enough. I don't think I need to get any bigger. Surely, no matter what happens, no matter what the triplets are like and whether they sleep or not, it can't be as bad as this. This is torture.
Jackie is now 34 weeks pregnant and carrying over 17 pounds of baby. She hopes this is going to be her final checkup.
I can understand why you're a little bit tired. It's just a touch.
And it just feels like last night I really thought I was going into labour because I was getting painful.
Well, I'm just delighted that we've got you this far. I think if we can get you to 34 plus 5 on Wednesday, fantastic.
Brilliant.
All right. So let's have babies on Wednesday.
Yes.
So, a glass of wine tonight.
This is the last night before we have the babies. It's 20 past 10. I've just taken some medication to stop acid going into my throat during the operation or something. And it's quite exciting now. We've been out for a really nice meal and had some champagne because it might be the last time in a while. And tomorrow we get to see the babies, and that's quite exciting. I know it's going to be hard in a different way after they're out, but I'm ready for something different now. And at least I'll have my body partially back. I'm hoping they might do a tummy tuck at the same time tomorrow. but I don't think they will. That'll have to be a separate operation. So, this is it.
At long last, it's showtime for Jackie, and she's having an epidural so she can be awake during the caesarean section. Any last thoughts?
Change my mind.
For a triplet delivery, there's always a big supporting cast. In this theatre, there's 2 anaesthetists, 2 surgeons, 2 surgical nurses, 3 neonatologists, 3 paediatric nurses and 3 runners. It's standing room only.
That's the little man. One arm. We've got another arm. Yep.
First to make an appearance, one of the twin boys.
And out comes your baby. You've got a mouth and a nose. Hello. Beautiful boy. That's one. Let's go fishing for another one.
He's born at 10:24, weighs in at £5 8 ounces, and his name's Tady.
And we've got 2 more legs coming. A second boy. This is a man. Definitely boy. Lovely. And we've got another one coming.
Twin number 2 follows hot on his heels at 10:25. He's going to be called Frank, and he's £5 13 ounces.
So that's 2 boys then. Okay. 2 feet.
After a final rummage around, the little girl makes her appearance at 10:28.
And another baby. Another baby.
She'll be called Orla, and she weighs £5 4 ounces. So that's all 3 triplets safely delivered, and the noise level considerably increased. Unfortunately, Jackie doesn't get to hold any of them yet. One of the problems with triplet deliveries is that the babies are always premature and need to be checked over carefully. Jackie and Richard only get a glimpse of the twin boys before they have to go straight to special care. They will need to be monitored because of problems with breathing. The little girl had her own amniotic sac and is a bit more robust. She can go back to the ward with her mum.
Oh, she's absolutely wiped out. Morphine, it's just a wonder drug. I feel like I've had about 10 gin and tonics. And I can see my knees and my toes again. That's really weird. It's just all these babies, I don't know where they are, what they look like, you know, you can't really get a good look at them.
So after being together briefly at the birth, the family is split up and there's a real feeling of anticlimax. The twin boys are in Skiboo, the special care baby unit. Jackie is on the ward with her daughter, and Richard goes home alone to wet the babies' heads.
Just thought I'd let you know what's happened. Obviously, Jackie's in hospital. She didn't get to see the twins. Well, I'll say the twins, the boys, because they're in the Skiboo, all day. She saw them kind of briefly on their way to the Skiboo unit. They were kind of whooshed past her face, and she got to say a quick hello. 11 hours later, I finally wheeled around to see them. I don't know other people's experiences of going down and seeing the children in Skiboo. I mean, I'd seen them earlier, and for me, it's not that I'm dispassionate or anything. It's just that it's very difficult to be emotional about children in a Skiboo unit under a glass canopy. But with Jackie, it was almost the reverse. I mean, she didn't think about the boys till she actually saw them, and then when she did see them, she was very emotional about it because they were her children and they were in a special care unit. Here's to the wee girl, and here's to the wee boys, and here's to Jacqueline. Cheers. Sláinte. God bless.
Next day, while Grandma feeds baby Orla, Jackie and Richard get a proper chance to see the twin boys on the special care unit.
The boys are in special care on ventilators. They've got respiratory distress syndrome, I think it's called. Nothing too serious, but they need help breathing at the moment. Their lungs aren't expanding and shutting properly, so they need help. And I had to really hassle people to let me go around and see them, because I just got a brief glimpse of them when they were born, and went round at about 10 o'clock last night and saw them and just burst into tears, because I thought I'd prepared myself for what it would be like, but nothing prepares you for going in and seeing these tiny babies in incubators with tubes rammed in their mouth and bonnets holding them on, and their little chests working so hard to just breathe. It was really hard, and also thinking they're mine, you know, they're not just these random abstract babies that are unfortunate, they're mine. I haven't held them yet. I don't even really know what they look like, because they've got these bonnets on and these breathing tubes, and it's all a bit strange and just really abstract, you know. It's like their hospital property.
After the break, Jackie and Richard are back in charge of the babies when they finally get permission to take them home. But once they're all back there, how will they cope with the demands of 3 babies and a toddler?
I'm often sat like this, with one on each breast, the third one crying and Saoirse shoving Play-Doh at me.
Saoirse Play-Doh.
Back at the hospital, the twin boys, Frank and Tady, are still in special care, but they're doing a lot better. The third triplet, Orla, is waiting for them on the ward with her mum.
The boys are now breathing. They've decided that they can be bothered to breathe on their own. The staff are full of stories about how it's always boys who end up in special care because they're too lazy to breathe. But now they're doing fine. They've still got feeding tubes in, but they are taking some bottle feeds, and it's just a matter now of getting feeding established and making sure that they put on a bit of weight. They've both had light treatment for jaundice as well, which is almost finished now. But they're doing well. I mean, they're big and they're healthy now, and they just need to get a bit of fat on them, and they'll be home. But it's difficult to know how long that's going to take. The nurses, who are kind of at grassroots, are sort of saying, oh, they'll be out in a few days. But I don't suppose anyone really knows, because the care is sort of baby-led rather than practitioner-led. So it depends on what the babies decide to do.
And guess what? The babies decide it's time to go home. So Jackie and Richard brace themselves for a mass exodus. Coordinating 3 babies and a toddler, they really have got their hands and everything else full.
This way. This way.
Back home, the triplets quickly get into a routine, although it involves military-style planning. Feeding time is a 2-man job. With only the regular amount of equipment at her disposal, one triplet has to have a bottle. On strict rotation, of course.
Yes, please. There you go.
Okay.
There you go, yeah. Frank never mucks about, he just gets on with it. He's Frank.
Jackie's keen on keeping up the breastfeeding, for the time being at least.
You either get the really militant lactators, you know, who just sit in bed for 2 years breastfeeding, or you get the ones who just say, oh, stuff it, don't worry about it, you know, and I'm kind of somewhere in between. So I'm kind of torn now between trying to do all the things that you need to do to increase your milk supply, which are eat, drink a lot, rest, and you know, feed more often because it's supply and demand. But I'm already feeding, it feels like, all the time. So I just don't know whether I can give up my life to it anymore. I'm often sat like this, with one on each breast, the third one crying and Saoirse shoving Play-Doh at me. And it's not, and I just have to try and distract her with the song or something.
Saoirse Play-Doh.
just feel massively fat. I mean, it's a complete myth that it helps you lose weight. I've not lost any weight since I had the babies.
Breastfeeding might not be helping her to lose weight, but it's certainly helping the babies put the pounds on. When the health visitor comes round for the weekly checkup, all 3 babies now weigh in at over 7 pounds.
He was 3
kilos last time, wasn't he?
3 points. Oh, he's done well.
Yes. 3.29. And in real money, that is £7.04.
Is that good?
Yes, very good.
It's been a doddle.
No.
No, it has. It's a slight exaggeration, but what it is, I mean, whatever you expect it's going to be, as long as you approach it with a bit of good humour and a bit of patience, it's fine.
So far, so good then, and it's safe to say whatever the future holds, it's not going to be boring. With 3 bouncing babies to care for and a lively toddler, what's the verdict on multiple motherhood?
It's been a lot better than I thought. I think people make a huge fuss about babies and how difficult they are. It's not that hard. It's tiring, but it's quite, you know, it's quite pleasant really. I think it helps that it's summer and Rich is at home and there's the 2 of us. I think if you're on your own, that must be really hard, because I don't think I could cope on my own every day. I really admire people that can do that. I think as long as you keep your sense of humour, most things are bearable, and we have had quite a laugh, you know. It's been quite funny.